I think this is something that we have yet to learn as a culture. Parts of our culture have probably learned it, and I'm sure that there's always examples, that speak against this. But for the most part, I don't think our spaces really inform their utility, or they don't. Maybe it's something about like creative spaces.
Yeah.
But I can think about any workplace in America.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of them are pretty just sterile.
Yeah.
And, I think there's room to, and if you're doing anything creative in that space, I think there's a responsibility, and there's actual utility, whether that's financially or just, spiritually or whatever it is, mentally. I think there's a positive incentive behind making that space something that, I don't want to say like carries a vibe, but it has,
absolutely.
it has, you walk into it and you feel inspired. I think there's, I'm a big fan of like high ceilings. I think high ceilings like open up the world. I'm a big fan of natural light. I know we're like low ceilings and no natural light, but like you've counteracted that with like your own counterbalance. But yeah, I mean, like,
but that is definitely something that makes this space during the day a little difficult.
Yeah.
But at night, when the shop lights are off and the lamps are all on, which is why I have so many lamps that are on dimmers with halogen bulbs.
Oh, and I'm a huge believer in like spaces should be able to transition.
Yeah.
Like you should have different. That's why I'm not a fan of the gray room with the, the couple of lights that are the same all the time. And it's the least inspiring.
Yeah.
I mean, you're one step away from a prison cell at that point.
And I think there is that element, like you said, with low ceilings. And while the main part of my studio is a walkout basement, there's a big window and a door where I can get some light in, and the way that I painted the rafters black, like it's a space that hugs you. Yeah. And sometimes that's fine. And other times it's a little oppressive.
Well, one of my buddies told me this concept and I was like, oh, that's good. And I tried to look it up and see if there was any kind of, writing on it or if the idea had been explored. And I'm sure it maybe has. And if anybody knows of, certain examples, I know there's architectural like writings and stuff, but he basically was talking about our apartment and like the studio.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, you guys have mastered your space.
Yeah.
And I love that idea of like you've mastered, and I think you've like mastered your space. Like you have identified what is possible to get out of it, and you squeeze it for everything that it has to give.
Damn drop.
Every last drop. And I think that's an interesting idea of like mastering your space, but is probably a good example of that.
Yeah. And we'll see how it evolves over time. Anything that changes, it's
in a year, you're just like, I'm going back.
Yeah. But, a lot of impulse, a lot of instinct, a lot of making it up as I go. I'm not really good with like, all right, I'm going to clear the room and I'm going to sit here for a week. Not that that's like the proper way to do it, but I'm not the type that's just going to go measurements, block stuff out. Where's this going to go? It's sort of like, I know I want an L-shaped desk made out of the same material. I know I want like this big shelf or whatever. I mean, it took me a while. Like I had this thing shifted down. I'm like, no, it's too close. I had a big shelving unit here. I had to take it out and put it back into the storage area to make room for this, mostly because I was adapting its surroundings to the size of this because I didn't want to cut the boards too much because like all these boards, these long ones.
Oh, I didn't even see Paul Giamatti over there.
Yeah, from the holdovers. He's watching us. I didn't cut any of these top boards, the length that they come from Home Depot. So just stuff like that. And, there's a lot of imperfections. There's stuff that's a little warped. It's not perfectly flat. It's got issues, It's got some stuff that if I had a carpenter that I could contract and make this stuff more custom, it would be closer, it'd be much more of like walnut and perfected and a beautiful finish and all this stuff. But instead, it's Home Depot boards, and you try to pick the best ones from the stack, you cover them in tongue oil and call it good.
It had been a golden afternoon, and I remember having the familiar conviction that life was beginning over again with the summer.